Okay, welcome to Night Hacking again. So we are at Devox. My name is Yolande Poirier, and I'm from Oracle Technology Network. And today, and right now, I have José Pomar. José, who we don't need to introduce because he is so famous now, an expert in Java SE8, EE soon. But so, tell us what you do in
Okay.
in all of the technology that you touch.
With such an introduction, I guess I don't have much to say. So
No, but you do a lot.
maybe I could just say to the people
Would
from
you say?
OTN that I participate in conferences. I give talks about Java SE8, Lambdas, stream collectors, things like that. I also write articles for
Mhm.
OTN and Java Magazine, among other things. And
But you mostly focused on Java SE.
yes, currently I'm
Java
mostly
SE
focused on
and
Java SE.
yeah, so right now
Java
Java SE 8.
8.
Yeah.
I'm also involved in the development of CDI in Java EE. I'm part
Ah.
of the expert group.
Mhm.
But currently we are working under the hood. We are about to release a new version of the specification. And things are really moving currently in the Java EE space. So it's better to wait that things are stabilized to talk more about it, I think.
Okay.
The
So
subject of the talk I did yesterday
right,
morning.
it's more about collections,
Yeah,
right? The
it's
connection framework in Java
absolutely.
8.
It's in fact the starting point is nearly a joke made on Twitter by Stuart Marks, who is very famous and who is currently writing code for the JDK, the collection framework. He's an Oracle employee, and he tweeted about a year ago with this Dr. Deprecator Twitter account, should we deprecate linked list? There were many answers to that. Some not very serious, but some very serious. From Ken Fogel, from Richard Warburton. Richard said,
Hi, Richard.
"Hi,
He's
Richard."
actually in the audience.
Said,
Would you?
without thinking more than a minute, the answer is yes. Okay. On Twitter, you have a
He's nodding.
small amount of words to make an answer. So I guess this was a fast answer. But yes, I mean, this question, in fact, is extremely interesting. And to answer it, my point in this in this university talk was to tell people, okay, if you want to answer this question fully, you need to answer many other questions. You need to consider algorithms, implementations, because ArrayList and linked list are two implementations of the same interface.
Mhm.
You need to consider how are the CPU organized from the microelectronics point of view, levels of cache and stuff like that. And you need to, at the end of the day, once you've done all this, you can't be sure about the answer. So you need to apply benchmarks to measure the performance of both implementations. Really, this is what it is about. So it's in fact, this question is interesting because you have to consider many things. You have to consider many aspects, and you have to seriously work on many aspects of the problem to really have an interesting answer.
So do we have the answer then?
Yes, we have.
Yes.
Yes, there is an answer, and
Okay.
definitely when you don't know,
Mhm.
you should always choose ArrayList by default, which is not obvious. You have to consider that the collection framework has been developed 16 years ago, and what was true 16 years ago is not true anymore today because the CPU have changed. All right. 15 years ago, CPU didn't have all these levels of cache, didn't have all this multi-core architecture, so things have changed much. At that time, there were many use cases where the linked list was more performant, could outperform ArrayList, but due to pointer chasing, to cache misses, to things like that, that comes from the not that new, but from the new architecture of the microchips. Now the ArrayList outperform linked list in almost all the cases. Almost all the cases. So there are one or two use cases that have been mentioned by Stuart, where yes, you should use linked list instead of ArrayList, but they are really two very precise use cases, and all of the other use cases go for the ArrayList. This should be your default implementation when you want to use lists in your application.
Okay, so you talked about the linked list, but you also talked about other part of the collection framework, right? Like the hash
Yeah,
tags and
the second map in Java 9 we will have a new patterns to create pre-filled lists, sets and maps written by Stratmarks, by the way. They're going to be extremely useful, and I wanted to make this kind of a joke. Hey, if the problem in the performance of linked list is the pointer chasing, since pointer comes from objects, what about implementing lists and sets without objects? And of course in Java 8, when you don't want to work with objects, you can work with lambdas.
Okay.
So can you implement lists and sets with lambdas? It turns out that you can by using tricks, sometimes dirty tricks that you should not be using in your applications, clearly. But it's also a good occasion to show people that, in fact, you can implement many patterns, even well-known patterns from the GOF, the Gang of Four, using lambdas. And this is basically what I did. I used the template method pattern and implemented it with a lambda functional interface, lambdas, and default methods, and it works very well. And it's really very performant. Really, it outperforms even the array lists on simple cases. But it has drawbacks, and because of those drawbacks, it might be not such a good idea to use this way of writing things in the case of the list and the set. In the general case of the template method, really you don't have any problem to implement that with lambdas. But in the use case I showed yesterday, all right, you can watch them, you can use them, but carefully. Be careful of what you're doing with that. Yeah.
Okay, so the talk will be recorded, so anybody can watch it online.
It could be already available on YouTube. The slide.
Oh, it is actually.
Yeah.
Yep.
The slides are on my SlideShare account. The code is on my GitHub account, so everything is shared as usual.
And your Twitter account is.
Yes, I usually use my Twitter account to advertise this. So if you follow me on Twitter, Jose Pomar, you'll have the links to all these resources. Absolutely.
Cool.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Yolande.
Thank you.
Bye.